Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I am Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is your first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world.
Ooh.
Things work differently now.
Never fear, that's why we're here.
We are your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of, so you better make the most of it.
That's what I do.
Well, Uncle Dan, it's a pretty good show this week.
Yeah, we got some stuff that we did that we've worked on for you.
That's right. I'm going to do a little bit where we explore the history of Mesoamerican underage drinking.
We're gonna bury some god or gods.
This is a mass grave in the graveyard
of the gods.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about a commandment this week. We're gonna do a commandment of the week.
That's right. We're gonna spin the wheel 1 through 10, see which one we land on.
And also, we're going to have Sarah Ponto Rivera.
That's right, from the Satanic Temple's grave faction.
Right, we're going to talk about satanic ritualistic abuse, which you'd think she'd be on the pro side of being connected to Satanic Temple.
She claims not to be.
She claims it.
Yeah,
we'll see.
If you don't remember, we're going to help you find that lost memory.
Yeah,
you'll remember.
We'll figure it out.
All right, let's do it.
I've already blocked it all out.
Let's do it.
Well, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I would like you to teach me some things.
Well,
I'm in a learning mood.
That's what I've been doing all these years.
Ain't it just?
And it hasn't took.
None of it sticks.
It just hasn't.
I am just as dumb as the day I met you.
It won't take.
Let's keep trying.
So, the last god, who did we bury? You buried a living god the other week, and we're not going to go back into that because that was bullshit. And by the way, I will have you know, Eli Bosnick tweeted out about that.
Oh, did he?
And said, Ganesh is not dead, he's very alive.
Yeah, that's true.
And hashtag Team Uncle Mark. So I just want you to know that I was right. So anyway.
Fuck you, Eli.
Oh, boy. I'm
taking you on.
Now we've started something.
They're all dead.
So this week we're going to visit a god who is very much dead. And in fact, this god was killed in their own time.
Oh,
yes,
contemporaneously murdered.
Was murdered in their own story.
They committed deicide.
And I've always loved this god. I just think, and I'm going to say they are so awesome, and it's just it is such a weirdly fun bit.
Yeah, you're giddy.
Of the Mayan pantheon.
I love it.
Right. Now, when you think Mayan pantheon, fun is probably like the 5th or 6th word you imagine.
Right, well,
after bloodbath,
right,
skull dress,
yeah, snake
head, etc., etc.
All kinds of crazy.
So this and I'm going to tell you what the name of this god is in a second. So this god comes to us from the Popol Vuh. And I don't know if you...
I think you made that up.
I didn't make it up. I make up a lot of shit, but I didn't make that up.
That's the Dr. Seuss tribes of the
right.
Mesoamerica.
I will not take his heart on a pyramid. I will not. So the Popol Vuh translates basically, it's from the Quiche language, and the Quiche people are a strain of Mayan. We're a strain of Mayan who are from the Guatemalan highlands. So it's a very particular kind of Mayan, and if you've never been to the Guatemalan highlands, it's amazing. And I kind of fell in love with all things Mayan on a trip to Honduras and the Guatemalan highlands. Interestingly enough, to retrieve Uncle Doug from the mission field.
Uncle Doug,
another story we'll have to talk about.
Poor bastard.
Yeah. So we went to explore what, in his mind, were Book of Mormon sites. In Guatemala and Honduras.
Oh, that's right. He was still believing.
Yes, and they, of course, were Mayan sites. Amazing. If you've never seen, you've probably been to Mayan stuff in Mexico.
I haven't.
It's just so hard not to be staggered and impressed and amazed by the richness of the culture and the architecture and everything. So
their calendar was for shit, though.
So the Popol Vuh
didn't predict the end of the world at all.
No, and failed to predict their own demise.
Yeah,
poor things. So
poor bastards.
The Popol Vuh is a book or a history that was recorded from earlier oral histories in Quiche. Excuse me, and it just means the book of the people. So luckily,
It was written on golden plates, I assume.
it was on golden plates. So luckily, there used to be a ton of Mayan books called codexes that were written on these kind of really cool accordion style pages that were like bark and plaster that were just beautiful with Mayan glyphs and illustrations on. But as was their wont, the Catholics burned most of those.
As you do.
As you do. So literally only 4 of those survived.
Which is why we don't hear Mayan accordion playing.
I love Mayan accordion. So the Popol Vuh is I'm going to have a little coffee here.
Ooh, take a sip.
Thank you. The Popol Vuh.
We're getting casual today.
We are. Well, you'll see why. In fact, you'll see why we shouldn't be drinking coffee. We should be drinking something else in a moment. So the Popol Vuh kind of survived somehow, and this non-book burning Catholic monk got a hold of a copy of it in the Quiche language, translated into Spanish. Somehow that survived all the insanity of the Spanish, conquest of the Americas.
Los conquistadores.
So we're very lucky to have the Popol Vuh survive. It's really the creation myths of the Quiche Mayans and stories of heroes and stuff like that. And among those myths, among those creation myths, so these are kind of mythological stories / gods.
Sure.
So my very favorite one is the story of the 400 boys.
Ooh, I'll bet that's your favorite, you dirty bird.
So I've never, in all of our reading of different mythologies and creation myths and everything, I've never seen a god that was so numeric.
Okay, right.
I've never seen a kind of singular god measured by the hundreds. Right?
Oh, so this is one being called the 400 boys?
It's 400 boys that are integral to this story, and most importantly, they are kind of the gods of alcohol, drunkenness, and revelry.
So it's like the Borg, only way more fun.
So it's like a white party for all my gays out there. But we're going to reference Eli again here, just so we don't go full Eli here. They're imagined to be about 10 years old. So let's have an age appropriate
discussion,
appreciation of the adorableness of the 400 boys. So,
okay.
So the 400 boys had a short.
That sounds terrifying, by the way. 400. How old did you say they are?
They are imagined to be like 10, 11 years old.
Jesus, that's the worst thing I can imagine.
Right. That would in any other kind of landscape, that would be the Lord of the Flies,
right,
writ large.
Yeah.
Especially because these guys liked to drink.
Of course they
So
did.
you can imagine 400 drunk 10-year-olds.
Okay, now I kind of want to see it.
Yeah.
Now that they're drunk, I kind of want to see what happens.
It would be bedlam. It would be bedlam. But they're kind of depicted as like just fun. It's like this fun time, and it's really positive. So the 400 boys, the gods of drunkenness, gods of drunkenness, alcohol, having a good time, partying, were in Mayan legend. They were setting about building a new hut.
Oh, yeah.
They needed a new place to shake their booties and have a good time.
A frat house.
Yeah, a frat house, like a honeycomb hideout for pre-Columbian underage deities.
Right.
So
the sign on the edge that says no girls allowed.
Well, that's really funny because there's never any girls. Just aren't part of this story.
No,
like, they're not interested.
Right. I feel like this is the world's biggest Little Rascals thing,
and and you can imagine it would be just madness. So they were setting about to build a new hut on the coast somewhere.
I'm imagining one of them's named Buckwheat Chakotl.
I kind of wish that they had. I kind of wish that they had individual names,
right?
But they don't, unfortunately. Just one of the 400. So they were setting about to build their new little party shack, their little tiki beach shack, and they needed a big central post for it to hold up the roof.
Yeah, sure.
And they were too little and too, even though they were so numerous, they were too small and too weak to drag this big central post, this big trunk they'd found.
Right.
Well, they were dragging it past Zipacna.
Yeah.
And Zipacna was sunning himself on the beach.
Okay.
Now, Zapakna, in Maya mythology, I know we're talking about a few gods here, but he's going to be really important to the story.
Sure.
As will his brother. So Zapakna was the son of Vupub Kakwi, which is 7 Macaw, of course. You know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Right. But some of our listeners, most of them already speak Mayan, but some of them don't know.
Well, they probably speak classic Mayan. Maybe they're a little soft on the Quiche dialect.
Right,
But we'll get you guys up to speed. Dan and I, this is the old hat for us.
We'll translate for you.
This is old heart for us. So he was the son of 7 Macaw, and he and his brother, Kabrakan, who we will just call Earthquake, which is what Kabrakan means in Quiche.
I thought that was the name of the bad guy dojo in
Cobra Khan. So Zapakna and Earthquake factor into the story very importantly. Anyway, Zapakna is sitting on the beach sunning himself. He sees the boys dragging this post along. And he's big. So he's...
Say, fellas, what you doing with the log there?
Yeah. So Zapakna is he and his brother are considered kind of demons in mythology.
Oh.
And they're typically shown as like caimans.
Oh, yeah.
Which are crocodiles.
Yeah.
Right. And but really big.
Okay.
So he's big and powerful, and he's sitting on the beach like, you know, crocodiles will sun on the beach, sun by the water. And so he sees the boys pulling it along, and he's like, hey, do you guys want some help? Which when you read what comes out of the Popol Vuh, it's like, well, he's just being nice. But it is assumed that the reason they will later get mad about this is that he was showing off.
Oh, that bastard.
And they didn't like that. So, but he said, no, let me get your post for you. So he picks it up and puts it over his shoulder, hikes up wherever they're building their house, and they've been digging a hole to put the post in.
Sure.
And the boys kind of conspire and say, hey, it's not cool. We're little and small, and it's not cool that in our universe is something so big and powerful that could just fuck us all up. So let's kill him.
Sure.
So now we're catching up with the common Mayan.
I was going to well, and also like the Lord of the Flies thing is now official.
They're going to kill Piggy.
Yeah.
So they decide they have to kill him. So they say, hey, man, we're too little to dig this hole deep enough. Why don't you get in there and dig it deeper for us? So
they're such dicks.
They're dicks. They're
it's starting to feel Trumpian.
Well, I don't know if you know any like 10, 11-year-old boys. They're be kind of shits.
Kind of jerks.
Especially in groups.
Right.
And drunk.
Right.
Don't ask me how I know. So they convince him to go down into this hole. And he starts digging, but of course he's a demon.
Yeah.
And he's too smart, and he knows, they're up to something. So he digs a side hole. He digs down a bit, and then he digs a hole sideways.
He goes all Shawshank on him.
And they say, okay, let us know when it's deep enough. And so he says, okay, I think it's deep enough. And he leaps into the side hole. And this is a little flaw in the story. You're going to detect a couple flaws in the story. Because all of a sudden, the 400 boys are capable of lifting their roof post beam. And
they drop it
down in, and he screams and wails. And
he pretends that it's hit him and that he's dying.
He knew this was a trap.
Okay.
So they say, ha, 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 we've killed him. Let us prepare our strong drink.
Right.
And after 3 days, when our strong drink is done, we'll have a party, and we'll know he's dead because we'll see the ants coming out of the ground with his nails and his hair. Now, crocodile's hair, maybe it's a species that's gone. I don't know.
Also, interesting behavior for ants. Fine, whatever. We'll let it pass.
Yeah, where are they taking the
Yeah, why are you just removing bits of things?
Whatever, Popol Vuh. So he, in his little hole, he tears out bits of his hair and bites his nails off and gives them to ants.
Okay.
Who then crawl up out of the ground.
Oh, he is just smart.
Yeah.
Not smart enough to like just not go in the hole in the first place.
Just to stay the fuck away from these kids in the first place.
Just kill them and eat them.
Yeah, pick them off one at a time.
You got all kinds of options, but his option was go in the hole, dig the side hole.
Yes.
Live there for a few days.
Yes.
Okay.
And because he espied them saying, in 3 days we'll have our big party, and he's like, so I'm just going to hang out down here for 3 days.
Sure.
So at the end of 3 days, they see the ants. They're very excited about it, and they decide to have their party. So they get wasted, and they're boogieing, and they're playing music, and they're having a great time in their fancy new house when what happens? He jumps out of the ground, and in most accounts, his brother Earthquake joins him.
Oh, yeah.
And they knock down the house.
Oh, no.
The roof is on fire.
That's right.
They knock down the house, and they kill all 400 boys.
Oh, it's Samson writ.
Yeah,
Mexican.
totally. It's Samson writ in the Guatemalan highlands.
Yes.
But there's good news to the ending of this story.
Better news than killing a whole bunch of annoying boys?
Then the Lord of the Flies ending very abruptly without the Navy showing up. So after their death, all the boys were absconded with up into heaven, into the sky, and they are now the Pleiades. Yeah. So that's where that constellation comes from in Mayan mythology.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there are worse fates in the universe than becoming a star.
Totally worse fates. And I think,
I don't know what they are, but there are worse fates than that.
I know enough about the Mayan pantheon and Mayan mythology to know that is the most Disney ending there is.
Right.
Like, that is the happiest fucking ending that anybody has. So
you're twinkling.
Yeah. So there they are up in the sky. So when you look up in the sky at night and you see, I don't know if there's 400 of them, maybe.
It seems unlikely
in a single
constellation. But, honestly, you point that Hubble in that direction, you go deep enough, you're going to find your 400.
You're going to find your 400. So I just think when you're looking at the Pleiades, really contemplate next time your nephew says, hey, man, can I have a beer? Just think about the consequences.
Well, what you do is you give him the beer and you chuck him into like the crocodile tank at your local zoo and just let nature take its course.
And then play this episode for the police, and I guarantee you everything will be okay.
They will let you off with just a slap on the wrist.
Exactly right. So
you'll be like, look up at the stars, though.
That's the 400 boys.
There you go, the 400 boys.
One of my all-time faves.
And since they're stars, we can't really bury them. In the garden, in the graveyard of the gods.
We buried them in the sea of space.
In the sea of space.
May they rest in pieces.
Moving on.
Let's move on. Uncle Dan. There are rules.
There are rules.
There are rules that govern us. And I think if we've explored on other episodes of our little shoe. There are rules that govern us, and they really all you really need is 10.
You basically 10 covers everything.
Everything.
Especially the top 10.
Yes.
The big dogs.
That's right.
The Decalogue.
The Decalogue. And I think we've talked a little bit about not making metal sculptures of cave fish.
Right. You don't want to do that.
I think there was something about not eating unleavened bagels,
owl.
Yes, owls and weasel loaf, but
I just want there to be weasel loaf in the world.
Make listeners who live near a forest. Dan, we'll get a post office box, and you will make some weasel loaf.
Look, don't just send us your first try, though.
Yeah.
Experiment with some recipes, get it good, and then send it to us.
We're looking for a little weasel version of summer sausage.
Anywho.
Hashtag Hickory Farms. Hickory Farms remembers. Did I tell you my family got kicked out of Hickory Farms? Did I ever tell you that?
No, you have to tell the people.
Is it still around? Does it still exist?
Let's just assume that it does.
Okay, so Hickory Farms.
Even if the company has long since died, some of their product will live on through the ages.
Oh, some of it's still in my bowel.
I just can't imagine that there isn't a summer sausage somewhere that won't exist in the year 4372.
Hickory Farms was an ye olde timey thing in the mall where you could buy like. It was cheese balls that had nuts on them that you buy for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And you could buy packaged like summer sausage.
They had sausage. Summer sausage that was like 15 inches in diameter.
It was like a boa constrictor in a plastic wrapper. And it had this oldie-timey Americana, Norman Rockwell kind of thing. But in their retail outlet, you could order it from a like mail catalog. But they had retail outlets, and they had one downtown to the ZCMI Center, which was our shopping mall here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And they had free samples. So they had little bins of like goldfish and little sausage bits and cheese bits.
Sure.
And so my dirty, grubby, white trash family would pour out of the town and country station wagon into Hickory Farms, and we just thought that food was there for us to eat.
That's just a meal.
Yeah, you don't take one little piece of cheese. You just eat all the sharp cheddar in the bin, and then you go next to it and you eat all of the summer sausage chunks. And so finally the manager said, "We've been keeping an eye on this family. You guys need to leave."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway,
that'll happen.
We had that little diversion there.
Thank you. I've forgotten entirely what we're meant to talk about. Yeah. Okay. Well,
so we've talked about the cave fish. We've talked about the graven images and the not graven images.
Thou shalt not steal from the pop-up store in the mall. And Christmas only.
And ages ago we talked about the third commandment, which was against taking the Lord's name in vain.
Right.
And you are going to introduce us to your favorite commandment.
Well, it's to me the most interesting of the Decalogue. There are, the first four are just about like, I'm so good. Yeah. Ooh, look at how big I am.
Don't make a statue.
Don't talk about other gods. Blah, blah, blah.
Sabbath, blah, blah, blah.
But the last one is the one that is most interesting to me. Here's the thing. I don't know if you know this about me, Mark. Uncle Mark.
Yes.
I am not a believer in any god or gods.
What?
That's not something that I don't have any.
We should have had this conversation before we
probably
started the podcast.
Should have. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
And as such, I like the concept of sin doesn't mean much to me. Or rather, I've just altered what I believe sin is about.
Sure.
And I do kind of believe in sin. I don't like it. I believe in it in a sense of like people doing harm to other people.
Right, you, of course. But I don't think that's sin. That is, you believe in not wronging other people.
I believe in morality.
Yes.
In a sense. And
a code of ethics.
And I'm fine calling that sin. I don't care. It's their word, but I whatever. Yeah. At least I can find some common ground with believers in some ways.
Yeah.
But the last of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet.
Yes.
Now, depending on now we've talked about there are versions of the 10 Commandments.
Yes, there are at least 3
in the
Old Testament.
And also like different religions number them differently. Mm-hmm. So like for instance, Roman Catholics and Lutherans kind of make numbers 9 and 10 two different coveting things. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife are two different things. Whereas the Jewish, the Orthodox, most Christians put that all as one well,
right, it's all property.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Here's the thing. Covetousness, it's the one of the Decalogue that actually makes, other than like, you can't murder and you can't steal.
There are like 3 or 4 at most commandments that you could say, okay, that we live this way today, and
for the most part, I agree with it.
And every society in the world has come to the same arrangement.
Right? Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Taking someone else's life, not cool. Taking
asterisk.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you shoot Hitler and everybody thinks you're a hero, but
right.
You shoot Hitler's brother, who's just annoying, and that's wrong.
Good Christian men hang a black guy for not being out of town before dark.
Right.
And then go to church the next day. So yes, many, many asterisks. That commandment rests on a bed of asterisks.
Right.
Right.
All of them do. But here's the thing about covetousness.
Yeah.
And of course I guess I should say that the text in Exodus 20 reads, according to one Bible translation, thusly: "You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife." Which that's starting to sound a little Dr. Seuss. You shall not covet him with a mouse. You shall not covet him with your life.
With a louse.
That's right. Or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. And if you're going to throw that last bit in, the anything, I don't know why you have to delineate the rest.
Well, and what's funny is, like, we referenced our little weasels earlier.
Right.
So many of the books, especially the Old Testament, are fucking stupendously detailed.
Right.
In the don't do's.
So specific.
So specific.
And yet, like, you can immediately think of 10 things that should have, if we're going to be specific, you needed to list a whole bunch of other things.
But that one feels like, and the ox and the donkey and the bucket and the milking stool and the threshold and the doorknob and
if he has a really nice chair, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Not that too.
and then the guy just goes, fuck it, just stuff.
Right, or anything.
So I just say, don't covet any of your neighbor's shit.
Right.
Or all, I don't know. The writing is insane to me.
Yeah. And also, the fact that wife is, of course, the same as ox, donkey, servant.
I think you're misunderstanding that. She came second after house.
It's true.
Right?
So house...
Less than a house, more than an ox.
More than an ox. So that's ladies, just know your place.
Listeners out there getting married, I just wrote your wedding vows.
I love thee. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways.
It's very simple, darling.
Less than a house, but more than an ass.
And if a bunch of strangers show up wanting to fuck somebody, sorry, baby.
Right.
This is how it's going to be.
But what I wanted to get to is this idea that wanting is wrong.
Right.
Because the rest of the things are about either, if we ignore all of the first ones about God being so important, the rest of them are sins of commission, sins of they are
of doing harm,
an act.
Yes, of doing harm unto
Right.
another.
Except the whole honoring thy father and thy mother thing, and that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah, we need to tear into that one deeply one day.
We
Because that
will.
is a really fucked up.
Yeah, I think you should take that one.
Your mom's downstairs. Should we get her up here and
Let's
push her around a little bit?
Let's save that for later.
Let's push that nice Canadian woman around.
Yeah, no, we'll wait until she's out of the country
Safely
again.
back over the border.
But so
Yeah, the
this
others
one-
are sins of commission.
right,
Yeah.
and this one is
This is a thought crime.
It's an internal thing, and the thing is that we are surrounded here in these United States by Americans, and it seems to me that there could be no more American thing on the earth
Than wanting.
than coveting,
Yeah.
than desiring.
Yeah.
It is the definition of what we are. I mean, it's the foundation of a capitalist society.
Well, and even going, aside from capital, which you're completely right, and that's the engine of this quote unquote Christian nation. It is not, but is capitalism, is advertising, is buy, consume.
Right.
But wanting, and I think we talked about this when we did the one of the ridiculous, multiplicities of commandments bits. What is wanting is simply how one gets from A to B. Wanting food,
Right.
Wanting shelter, wanting companionship, wanting family. How you're just supposed to be neutral on the acquisition of sustenance or things.
And I think I will give the Bible enough credit to say that I don't think that it's talking about food. I don't think it's talking about like sustaining yourself.
But I think that where it fails is being shitty with the language. This is kind of the Second Amendment of the Ten Commandments. This is way too interpretive. Right. So
Sure.
It should say, do not be envious, do not be jealous, meaning in the way that jealousy can make one a little nuts, or
Right.
jealousy can drive you to violate some of the other commandments, to commit adultery or to murder.
And I do want to get to that. I wanted to first just say that, like, in American culture, I just want to explore this just a little bit more, which is to say that I can't imagine a more American thing than walking down the street, noticing that your neighbor has a boat.
It's called keeping up with the Joneses.
And just
an
wanting,
American
and just being like,
archetype.
oh, fuck, I want a boat. I
Yeah.
got to work hard. And like, the way it's supposed to work is you see that your neighbor has a boat and you think, oh, I really would love to have a boat. So you go, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to climb that ladder.
I'm gonna do overtime.
Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to get me a boat. And then, oh, my other neighbor has a Maserati and I am going to get me one of those. And like,
Right.
my other neighbor let me drive his Jeep around and my other neighbor has a trampoline. And it's just one of those things where like, that's America.
Right.
And it's meant to be, like, to some extent.
Rightly or wrongly.
To some extent, yeah, exactly.
Rightly or wrongly. And I think, weirdly, that comes full circle to the meaning of that commandment.
Right.
Is knock that shit off.
Right. Well, and what's funny is that what it put me in mind of.
I think I just talked myself into believing in the Ten Commandments.
Well, one of them.
Wow.
Because I started with that's not a sin to want something.
Right.
And then I started to, as I was thinking about it, I got to the sort of the Buddhist concept of Tana.
Yeah.
Which is one, if you look at the four, what do they call them? The Four Noble Truths of Buddhism.
Yeah.
Basically, number 2 is that desire.
Which one is you can run across the top of bamboo? That's the second one.
That's the fourth one.
Oh, okay.
This is number 2.
Okay.
You got to get through this to get to that.
Oh, my God.
It takes a minute. It's okay. You'll get there.
In our little dojo here.
But the Tana basically is described as sort of thirst or desire. I would call it covetousness. And basically, it's what gives rise to what the Buddhists call dukkha, which that to me sounds poopy.
Dan. Thanks for tuning in, folks, for our sophisticated humor.
I'm mature.
Yeah.
Look, I'm getting philosophical here, okay? And we're talking about dookie.
All right, I'm going to go down the road with you.
Anyway, the Buddha identified this thirst, this desire,
right,
as the prime cause of suffering, of pain, which is what dukkha is. So I'm and in my life, I don't buy it. I'm not a Buddhist.
No.
And I'm not a Christian anymore.
Right.
So the point to me is, I think they kind of got that one more right than any of them, except to say it's not a sin. I don't see it as being something that hurts other people.
Right.
It hurts the self.
Right.
And I think that suffering is caused in attaching yourself to your desires.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with blank would be fun. I'd love to have blank.
Right.
I like riding a motorcycle, so I kind of want one.
Yes.
And so, I work.
I would like a boyfriend.
Right.
So you go.
So you date.
Yeah.
And you put yourself out there and you try.
Right.
But it's if I attach myself to that desire, if my identity is sort of somehow wrapped up in I need this motorcycle or I don't feel complete.
Right.
Or I need this boyfriend or I'm not worthy in and of myself.
Right.
Then that's when you've got a problem and you start to get this pain, this suffering.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I think that the in the American and the Western context, this drive to consume and this drive to own and have, and unchecked materialism,
right,
is super destructive. Of course it is, but I think that's also putting the most generous possible spin on the 10th commandment, right?
Right. Well, because, and I was talking about, you mentioned my mom's in town. I was talking with my mom about covetousness, and I was asking her, what, because I'm trying to wrap my head around, is this bad or is it good or is it neither? And, she was talking about how, wanting things, leads, if you covet someone else's thing, and she was making it about it's not about wanting, it's about wanting what that person has.
Yeah.
And that, to some extent, I think there is a distinction to be made.
Right.
there.
And that can drive a wedge between people.
Well, and it can make you feel inferior, or it can make you feel negative about yourself, or it can make you feel like somehow you're lacking when you're not.
Yeah.
But she started to say, well, and it could lead to you taking from them.
That's right. So that's what I was saying earlier. It could lead you to breaking others of the commandments.
Right. But that's the thing, is that stealing's covered.
Yes.
In one of the other commandments. So
Right.
this one isn't about stealing. This one is about something else, and it's a crime of the mind. And it's so funny. I have literally waffled 1,000 times on this one. Is it bad? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it fine? Because I want things.
Right.
And I desire things. And there are things but I think that once it causes suffering,
Yeah.
then it's a problem.
I think it is the one part of I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud. It is the one part of the Bible that suffers from too much brevity.
Would you please expound on that a little bit?
But right, like
Right.
it's instead of saying
You just spent 40 hours telling me who was related to whom, and you can't tell us a little bit more
oh
about...
dear God, yes, like we could just take Chronicles entirely out of the Bible,
Right.
and take Timothy entirely out of the Bible.
Anything that has the word begat, just
Right.
scrap that.
Because honestly, if it all comes down to what these rules are, let's again, it's like the fucking Second Amendment of the Ten Commandments. Let's make sure we are more specific
Right.
about what we mean.
And why we're saying it.
Right, because I think there's also great harm that comes from. You made a very generous reading of the 10th commandment, which is unlike you.
Yeah, I'm very much not a generous person.
Certainly not towards the 10 commandments anyway. So I think there's a lot of harm that can come from telling people that that the whole Bible is a guide for making you feel terrible about perfectly natural things.
Right.
And so wanting a thing, seeing that your neighbor in whatever shit mud hut village that you lived in Palestine,
Right.
Back in the day was slightly, had 3 more twigs for a roof than yours.
Right.
Wow, I wish I had 3 more twigs for my roof like Saul does over there.
Right.
Those are normal things. It's completely normal things.
And and it's not like, and here's where this differs from Buddhism or from reality.
Yeah.
It's not like this offers you any solace.
No.
If you feel, oh shit, I really do wish, Saul has those 3 sticks. I don't even have a roof. It sucks when it rains.
Right.
I really do wish that I had a better setup.
Yeah.
Or I wish that I wasn't,
Saul's got all this luck and I got nothing, and
he's got an ass and an ox, and I've only got, I've got a bird.
Yeah.
And I really would like to have,
he's got a house and a wife, and I don't have a wife, so I had to marry my house. Right. It gets complicated fast.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, that's legit. Those things are just going to crop up. And when they crop up, if they're causing suffering, which the Buddha would say they are, what am I supposed to do about it?
Right.
Like the whole Christian answer, the whole biblical answer to everything is cut it out.
Just feel shitty about it.
Stop feeling that.
And you could be jealous of Saul's 3 more twigs because you don't want your children to get rained on.
Right.
So you have a perfectly responsible, altruistic sensibility or reason to feel jealous or wanting for a thing.
Right.
But that's a sin.
But even if it's not, even if it's just egregious, even if Saul's got a hot wife,
yes,
and I want her,
yes,
okay, I get it. I shouldn't. That's not helpful to either me or Saul for me to want his wife.
Right.
Any help on how to not feel that?
Right.
Any help on how to deal with these desires that I have?
Right. And there's it's too brief. There's no moderating language.
No.
To say, look, when your heart becomes hard against your neighbor.
Right.
Right. When your desire to possess his wife makes you begin to hate him.
Right.
Then you got a problem.
You're right.
Right.
Or just go into your, the part of your hut where you do it and jerk off about it and then be done with it.
Yeah.
You don't need to make a huge thing out of it.
In Leviticus, just the prohibitions against lizard consumption is geckos, salamanders. What's the one that changes color? Chameleons.
The chameleons, sure.
Okay, fine. You can list every fucking size of owl that you're not supposed to eat. But you can't be a little bit more specific about one of the... How often are you going to be confronted with eating a chameleon, but you are going to be confronted with wanting shit all day, every day?
Every day.
And they couldn't have been owl size specific with how to deal with wanting shit.
Right. Or just maybe some degrees. Maybe it's okay to want thy neighbor's cool dining ware, but less okay to want... exactly.
He's got a nice burlap cloth over the hole in the wall.
Yeah.
It's keeping up with the Epsteins. Yeah. I don't know who they are. They live there. Well, I condemn this commandment, but advisedly.
I condemn it as a commandment.
Yes.
And applaud it as a jumping off point for thought.
But that's where
But that's not what it's meant to be. So you know what? Fuck the commandments.
Yes.
Let's just wash our hands of them.
Let's wash our hands of this garbage. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Well, Uncle Dan.
Yes, sir.
It seems like more and more people are tuning in.
They do. They listen to us, and then some of them feel like they want to hear it earlier.
Yeah,
they can't wait until the masses get
Can't
this
wait
thing.
till fucking Wednesday.
Right, that's ridiculous.
They're Monday listeners.
Yeah, and B, they want to help us out. These are our patrons, our beloved patrons.
Yes,
the best people in the world.
Yes,
and we've got some new ones to thank.
Well, let's thank them.
Yeah, so these are people who find people who have gone to howtoheretic.com and clicked on the Patreon button, or they've just gone to patreon.com and slash, I think it's just slash howtoheretic.
I think it is, yeah.
Or found us there. Just search us out.
Easily searchable.
Anyway, thanks so much to all these people. Thanks to Emily. Thanks to Wade, Gordo, Pia, and Mark. I'm going to have you give Dan Dan has earned himself an impromptu saint.
Oh my God! That we have another saint this week. All right, so Dan's saint is probably Saint Antagonista of Mobile.
Of
Mobile, and Saint Antagonista is the patron saint of jazz mandolinists and working for the weekend. Yeah,
that's a great one. Yeah, Dan, you really scored.
There's some really confusing miracles in her backstory, so
yeah,
we'll talk about it another time.
We'll get to it eventually.
Yeah. So
I'm
thanks, Dan, and everybody for all your support. And we couldn't do it without you.
It's true. Moving on. Well, listen, Uncle Mark.
Here I am.
A few weeks back, you and I had a conversation about craziness.
Yeah.
About Satan.
About Satan.
And how he likes to lure you into believing things that aren't real.
About how a person that doesn't exist caused a massive societal clusterfuck, which
that also didn't exist.
The clusterfuck existed.
Yes. Well, the clusterfuck about the clusterfuck.
Exactly.
Anywho, it's a lot to sort of sort through this whole satanic panic thing. So we thought we'd bring on somebody that knows a little more about it than even you do.
That's right. So
is that possible?
I felt like I knew quite a bit. Again, having lived through it, but we don't know all that much. So in this ongoing segment, Watch Out for Woo, where we've in the past taken down things like acupuncture and Oprah, and we thought we'd have someone come on to talk about what the quackery that came out of the Satanic Panic.
Yes.
And so today we're very lucky to be joined by Sarah Ponto Rivera, who is from the Satanic Temple's Grey Faction.
That's pronounced Grey?
Yes.
Space Faction.
That's right.
Which every time Lucian, when he was on it, said it, I thought it was Grafe Action or something. Anyway, Sarah, hello and welcome to our show.
Yes.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. You guys, the Grey Faction specifically, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, is very much engaged in in exposing and fighting the quack science that came out of this horrible period in our society.
Absolutely. We're really a collective of people who are empowered to change the remaining satanic panic that has evolved from the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. That is being kind of digging its heels into the mental health care practice within a subset of the mental health field.
Right. And we talked a bit in the segment we recorded a couple weeks ago, and I think our listeners probably have a pretty good background on the way society was functioning in the late 70s, early 80s on Pasder's Michelle Remembers, which was a monument of bullshit that somehow got taken seriously and produced a lot of spin-offs of really bad ideas and really bad practices, right?
Absolutely. It's really interesting that when you look at the Satanic Panic, like characters such as Mike Warnicki and Bob Larson were kind of originating the satanic panic peddling within fundamentalist Christian networks. And say in the book Michelle remembers, it really jettisoned the satanic panic into mainstream secular culture. And so it's really one of the books that gave validity almost to such ridiculous ideas, specifically that, this book was claimed that Michelle was a victim of these heinous crimes of a satanic nature. But these memories of this satanic abuse was being drawn out by something called recovered memory therapy. And recovered memory therapy is really a blanketed term to cover much of the therapy that's identified as drawing out repressed memories from the subconscious mind. So things like guided imagery, Jungian sand tray therapy, play therapy, hypnosis that's geared towards bringing those memories out of the subconscious mind. So research on memory has debunked this idea of subconscious repression.
Can you talk a little bit about that research? Just for instance, how do you debunk the idea that memory?
Yeah, absolutely. So memory researchers like Elizabeth Loftus, and there is a new memory researcher. I guess she's not new, but she's in the UK. Her name's Julia Shaw, who've done a lot of studies on how humans react to trauma, and so. Many of the proponents of the claim that someone who experiences traumatic events repress those memories into the subconscious mind to protect the person, or quote, protect the person. But when you really think about how someone would react to psychological or physical trauma of any kind, like an earthquake or a robbery, a sexual assault, if the mind were to spontaneously repress this memory into the deep catacombs of the mind, how does that actually protect you? So if you experienced a traumatic event like an earthquake, and then a few years later you begin to feel the signs of that quake, repressing the memory wouldn't prepare you to protect yourself anymore from the earthquake.
Right.
And so memory research shows that it's not actually how we process trauma. And really, folks like Elizabeth Loftus and Julia Shaw have shown that it's more likely for trauma victims to be haunted with the traumatic memory than to, any claims of this idea.
Yeah, of course. It's like, it's like saying that a guy goes to Vietnam and comes back and can't remember any of it. Of course he remembers it.
Exactly.
Short of a stroke, that seems
it's an absurd claim, and it's also evolutionarily it doesn't make any sense.
And really, I think it's really a slap in the face to anyone who's experienced trauma. This idea of recovered memories, it's really it's whoever is going into therapy to recover memories. It's a slap in the face to say that you can't trust your memory. And I'm the only person who can recall those memories with my therapy techniques. But then also it's co-opting false memories with the idea, with those who have actually experienced real trauma. And that just begins to lessen actual trauma. And I think that's just, it's contrary to what mental health care should be doing, and it's dangerous in the fact that it can begin to create such panics like the moral panic within the 80s of Satanism, and how Satanists were coordinating. Which I love that they think that Satanists are so super organized that they can capture a child without anybody knowing, do all of these heinous crimes, and then leave absolutely no fucking evidence.
Listen, I can attest to, believe me, people, I can attest to how difficult it has been to schedule a recording with Sarah and or Lucian. These are not organized people. It's not something that. Well,
No. Now you're telling tales out of school.
And that's the hilarious thing is that
I just recovered a memory of how mean you are to our guests. I don't like it.
I traumatized Dan. He won't remember. Don't worry. But this idea that didn't Geraldo Rivera say there were a million or millions of Satanists working in concert all around the country? Just bananas that child abduction. So
and that's part of one of the big problems with these claims that as I was looking into it, I found a thing. Uncle Mark and I are both out of the Mormon Church.
Perhaps you've heard of it.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
There might be a Mormon or two where I'm from.
Geez,
it's a pretty big deal. Anyway,
we're kind of a big deal.
I was doing some research about this within Mormonism, and there was a memo that was leaked from inside the Mormon Church back in the 90s, where they were looking into satanic ritual abuse. And they literally, and so this guy named Pace, who was a general authority of the Mormon Church, went and interviewed something like, eventually, I think it ended up being 100 victims of satanic ritual abuse. And in the memo, it's amazing because he says every one of them had either either multiple personality or a dissociative disorder. And I just thought to myself, every one of them, they all recovered. Like, does no one have just a memory of this?
Right.
They're all recovered memories of this?
Yeah. So this also goes on to into the realm of how the idea that Satanists are this elite, organized group of people is really widespread. So I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and that the same kind of memo went into the Jehovah's Witness literature as well. But it was all of that was spawned from the therapist of recovered memory therapy who were kind of throwing out these really ludicrous numbers, like, a million Satanists, an organization of 1 million Satanists across a network across the United States, and even recently, a woman by the name of Ellen Lachter, who treats children in California. She was on a podcast and was talking about how she thinks that there are hundreds of thousands of Satanists, or of cults within California who are committing these heinous crimes.
Jesus, Satanists wish they could get those numbers.
Thousands of children. Well, I think that's also many people mentioned to me, so why are you with the Satanic Temple? One, I identify as a Satanist, but two, I think that we are taking the power out of the word, and we are bringing attention to a topic of heinous malpractice within the mental health field. That one of the narratives that came from that was the satanic ritual abuse narrative, but many patients are still experiencing those kinds of therapies, and they're going into therapy wanting to have some type of ability to overcome either a disorder or stress, or it's even some things like migraines, and they're going into therapy, and just by chance, they come to a therapist who holds these beliefs that the mind can subconsciously repress memory, and then they're subjected to being led down this road. And so, memory is fallible and is easily suggestible, especially when you're in a situation with someone who is of an authority, like a therapist. And so we know now that those who entered into therapy in the 80s and claimed to have experienced recovering memories of satanic ritual abuse, or memories of any kind, really, were actually coerced and directed with leading questions. So like you guys talked about the McMartin preschool case. I mean, that's a great example of this. It was one of the most expensive cases in California history. Children were led to make claims of bizarre abuse of satanic nature. And what's really interesting is that only happened just a couple years after Michelle Remembers came out.
Right.
And so now when you look, you think hindsight 2020, we've learned from this, but there's actually an organization called the International Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation. And that organization has been a very key focus for Gray Faction. We've done some pretty extensive digging into the history of that organization and into the current practices of the therapists who are part of the organization today.
Right.
So many of those who founded the organization, the ISSTD, they started, it really started just a few years after Michelle Remembers. I think it started in 1984. And many of the organizers and the founders of that were sued for malpractice. So one case was of Patty Burgess, and her therapist was one of the founders, and she sued him, the hospital, and several other therapists, and received a $10.6 million settlement because she went through recovered memory therapy and was led to believe she was a victim of a satanic cult. I mean, it really just rocked her life. She was led to believe she had dissociative identity disorder, which was at that time known as multiple personality disorder. So the ISSTD, it really had a rocky history. Its originators were sued. Many of the members of the organization had been sued. And the only thing that they could do was rebrand their techniques, their disorder, their organization. So the ISSTD was once called the International Society for the Study of Multiple Personality and Dissociation. It changed its name 3 times over after that. And so now it's the International Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation. Now, this organization is recognized by the American Psychological Association. Many of the fellows and members within this organization who hold leadership roles are the creators of the multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder standard within the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. So like the therapy Bible, essentially.
Right.
That's where they guide their practices and diagnoses. And so they once called it repressed memories, and now they call it dissociated memories. And so when you think about it, within the 80s, there was the idea of we believe the children, we don't question allegations of sexual assault, which had a lot of feminist qualities to it because there were so many abuse cases who were just getting ignored, and so with that came this kind of backlash of, well, we believe every accusation, and also every accusation that really doesn't have very much basis. I mean, even just looking at Michelle Remembers, I mean, her book was claimed to be authentic, and really it details her coming in contact with Jesus and Jesus's mother.
Oh,
and
the book is so absurd, and that's what is so crazy about it. Like good fiction or a good lie, it has to be based. It's got to be like 80% feels really true. Mm-hmm. If she'd seen one baby sacrificed or she'd seen one person sacrificed, then it would have this credibility. It would have a credibility that I just can't believe it had based on the absurdity of its claims. It's mm-hmm. bananas.
Absolutely. So the ISSTD, it has a sub-interest group, a special interest group called the Special Interest Group of Ritual Abuse and Mind Control.
Oh, God.
Mind control. So they believe that, that they're actual licensed mental health professionals, people who have fucking PhDs. They believe that organized ritual abuse groups, that they can mind control you to forget every trauma, and then also create multiple personality disorder, or dissociative identity disorder, it's now called, to be able to either commit crimes or participate in rituals, and it's really just absolutely ludicrous. So there's going. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I did want to ask, though, you talk about how ludicrous this is, but I was raised, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I was raised believing this stuff was real. So how do we know that it's not?
Well, there was, so in the 80s, that was the we believe the children mentality. And then a lot, really after the McMartin case, was when media and our justice system really began to wise up, I guess. And so in the 90s, there was a lot more literature that began to question recovered memory therapies, and the science began to be a little bit more mainstream, and so when people were going on talk shows in the 80s and talking about these ideas, they were never really questioned. But in the 90s, there were some who began to bring those people back on and push them a little bit more. And even there was a case where Sally Jesse Raphael, she had interviewed a bunch of women who believed that they were ritually abused, and then brought several of them back on, and even some who had went through these forms of therapy, and then recanted that narrative. And so,
so she had them on years after. She had them years after. Is that right?
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I wanted to talk about the multiple personalities issue for a second, because again, like Dan was saying, we grew up with this just in the ether, and everybody's like, yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was as real as psychopathy, or it was just a psychiatric disorder that people got.
Right, and so, but when I was reading up to do our Satanic Panic episode, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't understand this about the quote-unquote phenomenon of multiple personalities, that it is not according to the science, it is not, you can't see my air quotes, it is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. It is the result of a nefarious action, right, where people are actually programming you with these multiple personalities. Like
those clever Satanists.
Priests, am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that's exactly correct. And organizations like the ISSTD continue to peddle ideas such as that. There are groups like Top DD, Top Dissociative Disorders. It's a research group within a university. I can't remember the university off the top of my head, but they do dissociative disorders research. And so, if you took any of those research to rigorous scholars of research in general, you would see that there are no controlled studies. There are no control groups. It's all based on essentially anecdotal research, and so it's based on the narrative, right, of the people who are reporting it. And so there's also claims that brain scans can have proved that dissociative identity disorder is real, but really there's a lot of pseudoscience that goes along with that as well, in the way that how do you know that the brain is actually spontaneously repressing a traumatic event, And how can you ethically test that if you don't enact a traumatic event to observe the memory being subconsciously repressed? And so there's a lot of research that gets touted as support for the disorder and support for the whole field, but really, oftentimes it begins to get challenged, and the field as a general began to kind of close down and become more of like a subset within the whole field of mental health care. So the ISSTD created its own trauma journal because a lot of the research wasn't being published because it didn't have the validity and reliability that would be needed to be able to be published. It wasn't
properly peer reviewed. Methodologies.
Well, the trauma journal that the ISSTD puts out, technically it is peer reviewed because they're their own peers, though. Peers.
Right.
Yes.
But it doesn't. But it lacks the sort of the clinical validity that some other research has.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this. So, what is really hard to wrap one's head around when we're talking about these things is motivation. So how can we understand what motivates the people purveying this garbage to do it, right?
I think that's a really great question, and I think that there are multiple answers to it. I don't think there's one answer to it. So the ISSTD is having a conference in Chicago in this month, at the end of this month. And a lot of the presenters at the conference are ones who were practicing in the 80s and helping to perpetuate the Satanic Panic. It's like when you think about, oh, well, that happened back then and we know better now. But really, like, there were very few consequences that led to therapists losing their license because of those practices. So they're still practicing. They may have tweaked the way that they talk about their practices. They obviously they don't use terminology like repressed memories for the most part. There are some who use repressed memories, that terminology, but in the grand scheme of their organization, the practices are the same, the techniques are the same, and so within that, those organizers from the 80s are still practicing. They're presenting to now a younger generation. And when I think empathetically about them, and the role that they play, they genuinely believe, I believe that they genuinely believe that this is a real phenomenon. And I genuinely believe that they think that they're helping. And so I think it's like any other kind of organized system of people who hold a belief in something pseudoscientific or a faith-based belief that really, when you get down to brass tacks, there is no evidence for it, but they find they find their own evidence that they feel is reliable and valid, and so with that, now it's also the dissociative disorders field and their covered memory field is really evolving. So even I talked about how there's been just this rebranding. Even now, they're trying to rebrand ritual abuse as organized abuse. And so it was in the 80s coined by Lawrence Pasner of Michelle Remembers as satanic ritual abuse. Then towards the 90s, it began being called just ritual abuse, and then now they're trying to co-opt satanic ritual abuse with other kinds of organized kinds of crime, very much like they did co-opting satanic ritual abuse with actual cases of sexual assault.
Right. They conflated real actual abuse that was just, it's a shitty term, but garden variety child sexual abuse or child abuse, and just threw Satan on top of it.
Yeah. And really using, I really like how Lucien Greaves claims that the field is just using real victims of abuse as human shields. That's what the organization is doing, and the field is doing. And so, and really, I hope that that eventually either justice will be served, and that therapists who are enacting these kinds of therapies that we know hurt people. I mean, Patty Burgess, who sued her therapist for $10.6 million. I mean, that was a really traumatic case. Colin Ross is a therapist. He's actually a medical doctor within the ISSTD. He was in Canada and was sued by one of his ex-patients by the name of Roma Hart, and some people who were experts within the case claimed that was one of the worst cases of medical malpractice that they had ever seen. She was so heavily drugged, dangerously drugged, that she would experience seizures. She was led to believe that she had multiple personalities, and she even claims that he would send patients home who were obviously suicidal with enough medication to commit suicide, and that in her stay with him for 4 years, that she alleges that there were 12 people who had committed suicide under his care, and so he was sued, and her case was never successful because I guess her lawyer fucked up some kind of paperwork or something, and he ended up moving to America. He lived in Texas, and then was, not much far after that, was sued again by with a case that was almost identical by a woman by the name of Miss Tayo, and they ended up settling out of court, and she received a hefty settlement. And so that's just one case.
One practitioner. Practitioner.
Sorry, Sarah. Did you need to say more about that?
I need to say about one more person.
Yeah.
That his name is Dr. Paul Dell. So Colin Ross and Dr. Paul Dell are both going to be presenting at the ISSTD conference this month. And Paul Dell, we've been doing some Freedom of Information Act requests into these practices, and we just came across Paul Dell. He was actually had been reprimanded by his licensing board for while he was using recovered memory therapies. He restrained a patient and then laid on top of this patient to be able to, quote, draw out an abreaction of traumatic memories. And so, which is crazy in itself that, there are all these ethical, these very questionable ethics within therapists like Colin Ross, Paul Dell, even Lawrence Pazder, Michelle's
the author,
therapist. Yeah, the ethics of that their practices are built on never really get questioned, and when they do get questions, it's almost like a slap on the wrist. And so you come to think about how the whole field is viewing those practices, and if they can't begin to bring into question what their how they're operating, this field is supposed to be the ones who are protecting the patients and protecting those who have experienced trauma, and really they're they're instilling trauma.
Right.
Well,
So
they're not only traumatizing the person, the person who has come to them for help, but it ends up traumatizing their families. It ends up really it can shred a whole family, not just the person who's gone in for the therapy.
Absolutely. Families, whole communities.
Yeah.
And the fear that came from the Satanic Panic, and then that also comes from other panics that can be driven from this. It's really something that you would think a higher standard would be held for mental health care professionals.
Right.
If you went to a physical health doctor and they were peddling pseudoscience,
phrenology, if they said the bumps on your head, determine personality or whatever, you'd be like, I'm out. And that I think that brings us to a good kind of point to conclude on, which would be this: is because our Watch Out for Woo segment is basically to help people avoid post-religion, bullshit. And so if I were to ask, what would you say to any of our listeners who are now looking for, or in the future will be looking for, some kind of mental health assistance or some kind of therapy? What advice would you give them for walking into a practitioner's office? What questions would you advise them to ask to avoid getting ensnared in this kind of garbage?
Absolutely. I think that they should ask if they believe that memory can be subconsciously repressed or dissociated. That really is a question that can gauge if they're going to be led down this road by the various kinds of recovered memory therapies, and then also looking into their license. Have they been reprimanded for claims such as this? Have they been sued or experienced any kind of licensing board action? Had their license removed? And that's something that a lot of consumers of mental health care don't realize, that you can look up in every state a mental health professional's license, and you have the right to do that. And to make sure that you're going to see a therapist who's not going to harm you with these forms of therapy. I think those are two main things that I would definitely recommend for someone.
Yeah,
wonderful.
I think that's great advice. And just asking, because there are a lot of, here in Utah, there's a lot of practicing therapists that really, at the end of the day, what they're going to tell you is read the Book of Mormon. I mean, so do you practice evidence-based, science-based therapies? But absolutely look up their licenses. It's a relationship of trust that you need to establish that trust, and you have a right to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
If people want to learn more, where can they go to find you?
You can go to greyfaction.org, greyfaction.org.
Excellent.
If you guys ever split up, you could have a whole you could have different versions of you could have 50 Shades of Grey Faction.
Oh,
man,
we're going to cut that out.
Yeah, we probably should.
All right, Sarah. Well, thanks for joining us, and good luck with your work going forward.
Thank you. You have a good one.
You too. All right. Hey, Sarah, before we let you go, I wanted to ask one question, and we didn't get it in. We started to wrap up before we got it in, but maybe I'm going to ask it right now and have you answer it, and then if we have the time, we'll cut it into the interview. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if this will be useful, but I just wanted to sort of have your answer to it, just in case we wanted it.
Okay.
So I'll just launch in. So, Sarah, one of the things that I did want to talk to you about is the idea is the fact that Grey Faction is associated with the Satanic Temple. And I wonder if somehow your work could be hindered or could be called into question because of that association, because of where it's coming from.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good question. However, it hinders on who is looking into Great Faction. We are a very transparent organization, being a campaign of the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple is a very transparent organization that explains that we're an atheistic religion, and that we operate and try to encourage, looking at the world through a lens of the best scientific perspectives that we know of, and so I think also we're taking the power out of the word Satan and Satanism,
right,
and beginning to change what that means. And so oftentimes within the 80s and 90s, if you began to question this idea of satanic ritual abuse, you would be questioned. Your intentions were questioned.
right. They'd say,
oftentimes,
"What if you're a Satanist?"
Exactly. And so, anyone who challenged this idea, a quick Google search will lead you to see that they've been accused of Satanism or being associated with the Satanist at some point in time. And so when you think about that, we have the best intentions, and we have now said we are the fucking Satanists, and what you're claiming, it doesn't at all identify who we are and what we do. And I think that in itself, when people come to realize that, the argument, we can overcome the argument of, well, aren't you a Satanist then if you're questioning this? And now we can actually have the real conversation of, okay, here are some heinous crimes that are happening within the mental health field that really they've been thoroughly debunked, and or the techniques have been thoroughly debunked. But why are they still happening? And why are people in power within licensing boards, the APA? Why isn't anything being done to bring an end to those practices?
But aren't you actually just covering for the fact that the Satanic Temple is ritually abusing people? Admit it.
Mind control.
Okay, I guess you're not, huh?
Well, I guess we're not, but I think that that a lot of people still don't know how to react to the Satanic Temple.
Yeah.
But the Satanic Temple's in it for the long haul. We're not going anywhere, and neither is the Great Faction campaign. And so I think that after the first year of the Satanic Temple being a thing, people were thinking that, this was just a group of people trolling, and really, yes, of course we love to have good fun, but we're very, very sincere in our intentions in all of our campaigns, and specifically the Great Faction one.
Yeah. It's a serious issue, and it needs to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would like to say one thing, because I make this suggestion for what mental health consumers should do. However, I'm not a licensed mental health professional, so I'm providing my opinion, not in a way of being a licensed professional. And I think that that's really important to know. But from the information that I have and from the information and research that has been done through Great Faction that I've been heading up, those seem to be the most logical steps.
Great.
Perfect.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for your time, and
thank you.
And good luck to you out there in the world.
Yeah, good luck with your thing coming up in Chicago.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll send you pictures and all of our videos.
Yeah, send stuff.
Cool, and we'll talk again.
Okay, all right. You have a good one.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and send us an email if you want to, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or you can leave us a voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986.
Thanks again to our patrons, and to those of you who want to join them, you can go to howtoheretic.com and click on that Patreon button.
That's right. Or you can, if you want to find us online, we have a Facebook page, apparently.
We do.
And we're on Twitter at HowToHeretic. And thanks, Cody Layton, for editing the show.
And thank you, dear friends, for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.